The answer is for A is unnormalized form because the primary key has not been identified yet and there are repeating groups. Okay, so this is how you answer for the question A. In what normal form the relational schema is. Okay, so this is the answer. Okay, any question up to now? Boleh faham? Boleh ya semua? So if alright, so we proceed. Okay, next we would like to answer question B. Identify appropriate primary key. Okay, so we know there are no primary key mentioned yet, right? So next we need to identify it. So how can we identify it? First, you take a look at the table. Okay, this is the composite table. Okay, composite means it has several entities inside it. So from this column attribute, you try to look what kind of information you can extract from this table. Okay, cuba tengok apakah maklumat ataupun information yang kita boleh keluarkan, boleh extract daripada table-table ni. So if you take a look at the attributes name, you know that find entities that can be selected from the table. So try to take a look. So we know, okay, so there are borrower ID. Okay, so borrower ID and then borrower category and borrower funds. So based from this attribute of this column, we know, oh, this column must belong under one entity because it has borrower as the keyword. Okay, borrower, and then ID, category, fund. So we know, all right, so this attribute belong to entity borrower. Okay, because it has keyword borrower here. Entity borrower. Next, we take a look. Oh, we have CD ID and then CD title and CD generate. Okay, so because we know the keyword is CD, this attribute must belong under the entity CD. So from here, we already get two entities. Okay, this is what does it mean by composite table. So this is composite table. So inside it, there are several entities. Now we have found two entities. Next, for the rest of the attribute, date borrow, date return, and then staff ID, staff name, total change, doesn't really relate to these two. So we assume that these attributes are about borrowing. Okay, borrowing. So we keep it for later use. Okay, we will discuss on this later. So from here we know we already get two entities. Okay, next, find the best appropriate key. Okay, from these two entities, what are the appropriate key? What are the best appropriate primary key from these two entities?
Borrower ID and CD ID.
Yes, borrower ID for borrower table or borrower entity and CD ID for CD entity. Okay, so we have found the best appropriate primary key and then try to take a look. The relationship between this entity, is it many to many or not? Okay, usually many to many lah. Okay, for the normalization, usually within the composite table, the relationship between entities will be many to many relationship. Okay, because okay, to take a look why? Because many borrower can borrow many CD. Okay, then we write business rule. Okay, so each borrower can borrow many CDs. Each CD can be borrowed by many borrowers. Okay, so from this business rule, we know that the relationship is many to many relationship. Okay, so to make it clearer, you can you try to train yourself to draw the ERD so that it can be visualized to make it more clearer. So we draw the ERD for borrower entity, borrower, and then the borrower ID will be the primary key, followed by other attributes which are borrower category and borrower fund. Okay, reflect here. And then CD entity, it has primary key as CD ID, and then CD title and CD generate. And then the relationship is many to many. Okay, so we have a clearer view on the relationship between the entities that are located inside this composite table. Okay. Next, as we know, we cannot have a direct many-to-many relationship. Okay, we cannot have direct many-to-many relationship. So what we need to do is we need to create a bridge entity. Okay, if you look at the table attributes left here, okay, under borrowing, you can notice, oh, borrowing is actually the bridge entity between borrower table and CD table. Okay? So borrowing will be bridge the bridge entity or bridge table between borrower and CD. So from here we have a relationship of one to many, many to one. So the problem for direct many to many relationship has been solved by having the borrowing entity. So when we have a bridge entity, we have PK1 and FK1 that come from the parent first, which is the borrower. So borrower ID will be the PK1 and FK1. And then PK2 and FK2 will come from the second parent, which is the CD. So we have CD ID as the PK2 and FK2. And then the rest of the data, you fill it inside this bridge entity. Okay. So from here, our ERD almost complete, but not yet complete because we just want to identify appropriate primary key. So from here we know, alright, so the appropriate primary keys are borrower ID and CD ID. Okay, so this is the answer. Borrower ID plus CD ID. Okay, make sure you answer, you put plus. Okay, don't put comma, put plus so that I know. Borrower ID is the primary key from one entity plus CD ID is a primary key from another entity. Okay, if you put comma, I might be confused. Maybe the CD ID is the attribute within one table. Okay, so to answer B for the identified appropriate key, primary key is you should put plus. Okay, plus sign so that I know, oh, two primary key involved in this question. Okay, any question for this B? Boleh faham?
Boleh faham.
Alright. Okay. Okay. So next, okay, the crucial one, the critical one. Normalize the table into third normal form. Show all your work for each normalization stage. Okay. So from here, meanings that they want you to show what are the normalization at the first normalization form, and then followed by second normalization form until you manage to normalize your table into third normalization form. Okay. You need to put all of these three stages of the normalization. Okay, now we take a look on the first normalization. Okay, this is the first normalization form. Okay. Uh, for the first normalization form, what you need to do is you need to write the bridge entity first. Okay, from the table you write the bridge entity. Okay, although we have gathered others table or other entity, but first, okay, from the scratch, from the table, this is the data directly from the composite table that was shown at the first question. But you extract the entity, which is the borrowing. Okay, okay, this is the composite entity. So you put the borrowing, which is the bridge entity or bridge table, and then the first two you should put the primary key. Okay, the primary key involved. So we know borrower ID and CD ID are the primary key. So you put the primary key. Okay, the first two is the primary key, and then you underline it. Okay, underline to as a symbol that these two keys are the primary key. Okay, and then followed by others attribute lah. Okay, followed by the rest of the attribute. Okay, so this is the first normalization form. Okay, ingat lah, you kena write the bridge entity dulu. Write the bridge entity first. Okay, so this is the bridge entity. Then you also need to show which are the partial dependencies. Okay, partial dependencies, if you still remember from our normalization lecture last week, meanings that the entity that are dependent to the primary key. Okay, entity yang mana dia perlu depend dengan primary key. So we know we have primary key, borrower ID and CD ID. So for borrower ID, the dependents are borrower category, borrower phone. And then from borrower ID also, we know that we can get the staff ID and staff name. Okay? From the borrower ID, because the staff might serve the borrower. Okay, so the staff might serve the borrower. So from the borrower ID, we can get the staff ID and staff name too. And then for the second primary key, CD ID, the dependents are CD title and CD genre. Okay, so if you write these two part, okay, first normalization form, and then you write the bridge table, okay, bridge entity, and then the first two you put the primary key first, followed by others attribute, and then the second part is you write down the partial dependencies. Okay, so these two will be the answer for first normalization form. Okay, this is the complete answer for first normalization form. Next, for the second normalization form, what you need to do is you need to extract. Okay, first we have the bridge table only. Next, you need to extract from this bridge table. You need to extract the partial dependency, and then create the new table. Okay, this is the second normalization form. Okay, so we have the bridge table borrowing. Okay, as in the first normalization form, only that the partial dependency here you extract into a new table, so become a borrower. Okay, borrower ID is not a table, it is a primary key. So we know borrower ID and the rest of the partial dependency are within borrower table. Okay, so we create borrower, and then inside it you put the primary key borrower ID followed by the rest of the partial dependency. Okay, borrower category, borrower phone, staff ID and staff name. Okay, the same belong to second partial dependency, which is CDID. So CDID, CD title, CD genre, we know this belong to a new entity, which is CD. So you create CD entities, and then inside it put the CD primary key followed by the rest of the attribute. Okay, so this is the complete answer for second normalization form. Okay, and then if you take a look closely at the second normalization form, you will notice there are some attributes that can be extracted into a new entity. Okay, okay, kalau kita tengok, if you look at the borrower, we have staff ID and staff name. Okay, when we have staff ID, it is a potential primary key for a new table, and then it also has staff name. So we know, okay, so staff ID and staff name can be extract out into a new entities. So in the third normalization form, you extract, okay, borrowing is somehow equal with the third normal, only that in borrower, okay, because staff ID and staff name located within borrower table or borrower entity, and then you notice that this can be extracted into a new table or new entity, so you extracted it into staff table. Okay, staff table, and then you put staff ID and staff name. Staff ID will be the primary key for staff. Staff name will be the attribute, normal attribute for staff entity. But because this borrower and staff has relationship, you need to put staff ID here, okay, as a foreign key. Okay, I put the asterisk mark here to as a symbol that this staff ID is the foreign key for staff. So we know staff and borrower has relationship. Okay, staff serve the borrower. Okay, so from here we have a complete normalization process from first normalization form, second normalization form, and now third normalization form, which is the last normalization. Okay, so here we already completed our normalization process. Okay, so for staff ID, it is a transitive dependencies. Okay, transitive dependencies means that at first, okay, in the first normalization form, the attribute doesn't belong directly to the primary key in the first normalization form. Okay, if you take a look, staff ID and staff name here, okay, it did not involve in partial dependencies. Okay, kalau you tengok dalam partial dependencies, there are no actually no, staff ID ni, okay, it should be take out to be as transitive dependencies because it is not directly, okay, it is not directly. So we consider it as staff ID. So it can be taken out from the table to create a new table. Then, though this example didn't ask you to draw ERD, but try to train yourself to draw ERD because normally in the first year, it will ask you to draw the ERD. So from here, we draw the ERD here, okay. So we have staff follow this third normalization form, okay. This ERD must follow the final stage of the normalization. So we have staff ID, staff name, and then borrower ID, borrower category, borrower phone, and then staff ID will be the foreign key. Okay? Foreign key. So we have relationship staff with borrower. And then we have borrowing table as the bridge table between borrower and CD. Okay. Cuma ini silap staff ID and staff name sini sepatutnya tak ada. Okay. Kamu take note lah. Staff ID and staff name sepatutnya tak ada di sini sebab kita simpan di sini dan digunakan oleh borrower. So borrowing will have PK1, FK1 borrower ID, PK2, FK2 CD ID. Okay. And then we have date borrow, date return, and total charge. Okay. Staff ID and staff name not exist in this borrowing. And then CD normal lah. It's like here CD ID, SPK, and then CD title and CD generate. Okay. Okay, boleh faham? As of now. Yeah, alright. Okay, so that is the full answer lah. How can you answer the normalization question? Okay, the structure of the question pun selalunya sama saja. Okay, so now we try to take a look on the second example.
Sir,
Yeah.
apa beza dengan nombor normalization nombor 2 dengan nombor 3 tu?
Nombor 2, nombor 3. Okay, kalau kita tengok, kita take out staff ID ni. Okay. We extract staff ID into a new entity here. Nampak tak? Staff here.
Kenapa ambil staff ID tu?
Sebab kita tahu, sebab dia ada staff ID. Okay, staff ID is a potential primary key for a new attribute. And then we have staff name. Okay, nampak tak? Okay, nampak dua ni. Dia ada potensi untuk menjadi primary key. And then dia ada block staff name. So kita nampak di sini, oh, these two can be extracted. Boleh dikeluarkan menjadi satu lagi table. A new entity. So we take it out. Okay, we take it out and then we form a new entity here, staff. So kita ada staff ID. So bolehlah dia jadi primary key. And then we have staff name. Okay. So from here, all of the attribute are complete. Okay, all of the attribute that can be extracted to be a new entity already have become a new entity. So this is the complete form lah for third normalization form. Okay. Cumanya disebabkan borrower dia ada relationship dengan staff, so kita kena maintain lah di sini staff ID. And then we put asterisk, okay, star here sebagai simbol. Staff ID is the foreign key. Okay, so we know borrower ID and staff ada relationship. Okay, nampak ni? Staff ada relationship dengan borrower. So one to many, so many should store the foreign key. So foreign key staff. So staff serve the borrower. Okay, boleh? Right. Okay, now let's take a look on the second example. Okay, this is the second example. Okay, tadi soalan berbentuk table, okay, relational table. Sekarang dia bagi relational schema, okay, where it is not in the form of table. So we need to be extra cautious, extra alert with the information within this schema. Okay, answer the following question based on the following relational schema. Examination. So we have subject code, subject name, exam room number, hour start, hour end, exam day, invigilator number, invigilator name, class group, lecturer name. Okay, kalau kita tengok situ, try to identify what are the possible new entity located within this schema, the relational schema. This relational schema are the composite entity. Okay. Selalunya soalan dia akan start dengan composite entity dulu. Okay, macam tadi composite dalam bentuk table, walaupun dalam bentuk table dia masih composite entity. Ini pula dalam bentuk relation schema still in a composite entity because within the attribute within this entity comprised of several entity. You boleh extract into several entity. And then take a look at the question. In what normal form the relation schema is in? Give your reasons. Identify appropriate primary keys. Normalize the table into third normalization form. Show all your work for each normalization stage. Okay, kalau tengok soalan dia lebih kurang sama macam tadi. So if you can understand how to answer it, I think it's no problem for you. Okay, so how to answer the first question? A. In what normal form the relation schema is in? Give your reason. Anyone want to answer? Apakah struktur ataupun bentuk relational schema ni? Is it normalized yet or not? Anyone? Normalized yet or not? If you take a look at the attribute within the relation schema here, the first step, okay, you need to take a look. Does it mention any primary key or foreign key? No. And then are there any, yeah? Does it mention primary key?
No.
No, right? No. If it mentioned, it will underline the primary key, but there's no underline attribute, so they didn't mention. The foreign key also didn't mention because there are no asterisk symbol, so it didn't mention anything. So we know that they didn't mention. Next, we take a look. Is there any possible for a redundant data or redundant group? Ada that possibility based from this attribute, the data will be redundant?
Yes.
Yes, right. Kalau kita tengok subject code, okay, for example, ICT200, okay, it have the possibility to be redundant if we put all of the data inside this one relational schema. So because of that, the answer will be like this. Unnormalized form because the primary key has not been identified yet and there are repeating groups. Okay, you do subject code boleh jadi repeating, subject name pun repeating, exam room number pun repeating, lecturer name or class group also can be repeating. So this is the answer lah, unnormalized form because the primary key has not been identified yet and there are repeating groups. Okay, next for the second question, B. It asks us to identify the best appropriate primary key. So from here, we need to take a look closely on the attributes provided here. Okay. So we know subject code, subject name. Okay. The keyword is subject. So we know code is a potential for primary key and then subject name can be attribute for partial dependency for subject code. So we highlight here and then can be put as a new entity which is the subject entity. And then take a look around. Exam room numbers not clear yet. Our start, our end, exam date is not clear. But then invigilator number and invigilator name. Okay, the keyword is invigilator. So we know these two must be related to each other. So we take a look and again, invigilator number has the potential to be the primary key, while the invigilator name has the potential to be the partial dependency for invigilator number. So we know these two can be extract out to be the new entity, which is the invigilator. Okay, so we have two entities here, subject and invigilator. And then the rest, as it is not clear yet, we can put it as examination. Okay, examination. Exam room, our start, our end, exam date, class group, lecture. So we know this must involve above exam. So we put examination. Okay, now we have the clear one is we have two entities, subject and invigilator, and then we take a look what are the relationship between subject and invigilator. So we know many subject can be invigilated by many invigilator. So to write the business rule is each subject can be invigilated by many invigilators, and then vice versa, each invigilator invigilates many subjects. So because of this business rule, we know that the relationship between these two entities are many to many relationship. Okay, so to make it clearer, we draw the ERD. Okay, so this is the ERD. Uh, we have subject, and then the primary code is subject code followed by subject name, and then it has to many relationship with invigilator. So invigilator number will be the primary key followed by invigilator name. So we know that they cannot be direct relation, many to many relationship. So we need to create a bridge relationship. So based from the rest or the other attribute which is belong under examination, we know okay, examination can be the bridge table for subject table and invigilator table. So we create like this. We create bridge of composite entity examination. Okay, so uh, subject subject code will be the primary key, subject name, and then class group also can be foreign key. Okay, we'll take a look in detail for the next question. And then invigilator has invigilator number as primary key and invigilator name. So the bridge table is examinations. Okay, you put these two also can put these two first. Primary key and foreign key one is the invigilator number. Primary key 2 and foreign key 2 is the subject code here. So the problem for many to many relationship has been solved. So from here we have one to many, many to one. Okay, so the problem for many to many has been solved. So the answer for this is the appropriate primary key are subject code plus invigilator number. Okay. Subject code plus sign invigilator number. So I know these two attributes are from different two entities or from different two tables. Okay. Subject code for subject entity, invigilator number for invigilator entity. Okay. So that is for the answer for B question. Next, normalize. Same as the example one, it asks us to normalize into third normalization form, and then it asks us to show all your work for each normalization stage. So we need to start from the first normalization form. Okay, remember for the first normalization form, you need to take a look the bridge table first. Okay, this one. Okay, this composite entity or bridge table here, and then you identify what are the potential primary key. So for the first normalization form, we take examination, okay, examination, and then the first two you put the primary key first, okay, subject code and invigilator number, and then you underline it, okay, to symbolize that these are the primary key, the potential primary key, and then follow by the other attribute lah, okay. And then you also need to mention the partial dependencies based from this primary key. Okay, from this primary key, you state what are the partial dependencies. So you have subject code as the primary key, and then its dependents are subject name, class group, and lecturer name for the subject code. And then for the invigilator number, the dependency are invigilator name. Okay, so this is the complete uh, complete answer for first normalization form. Next, for the second normalization form, what we need to do? What kind of answer for the second normalization form? Anyone? Iqbal Syahmi,
Yes sir.
apa yang perlu dibuat untuk second normalization form?
Kita kena create new table dengan partial dependencies.
Yes, correct. Okay, good. So kita kena create partial dependency based from these two. Okay, partial dependency we create the new table, new entity. So this is the second normalization form. So this is the bridge table or bridge entity. Okay, and then from the partial dependency we know subject code, right? And then subject code is not the table, so we create subject. So this is subject will be the new entity. Subject code is the primary key followed by the partial dependencies here. Okay, and then the same things apply to invigilator. Invigilator number as primary key and then invigilator name. Okay, so this is the answer for second normalization form. Next, is there any other entity that can be extracted out for the third normalization form? Ada lagi tak yang kamu notice dalam second normalization form? Ada tak entity yang kamu rasa macam boleh di-extractkan lagi ke new table? Ada tak? Okay, untuk examination ni mungkin tak ada. Okay, any answer? Lecturer kan? So lecturer kita tengok macam tak directly dependent pada subjek kan. It can be extracted out kan. And also class group. Okay, macam subjek ni kita nampak subjek dia punya keyword subjek and subject code kan. So kita nampak directly. Invigilator pun invigilator name kan. Invigilator name dia ada keyword invigilator. Tapi macam subjek ni, class group and lecturer name ni, dia tak directly dengan subjek. So maybe it can be extracted out to form a new entity. So because of that, we take these two out to form a new entity. Means a class group here can be the primary key for entity class. Okay, so we have class group as the primary key for entity class followed by lecturer name. So we know this lecturer belong to which group? Okay. So because of that, this entity will be transitive dependencies. Okay, lecturer name and class group will be transitive dependency. Okay. Then for the subject, because subject and class has the relation, so we should maintain the class group, which is the primary key for entity class, but it will become the foreign key for the subject. Okay, that can be foreign key. So we put asterisk symbol here. Asterisk symbol here as a symbolization that this is the foreign key. So we know subject and class has a relation. Alright, so this is the complete answer when the question asks you to write each of the stages for the normalization from the first normalization form until third normalization form. But as I said before, train yourself to draw the ERD based from the third normalization form. Okay, sebab soalan akan tanya juga, akan minta kamu draw the ERD. So this is the ERD lah. The final ERD that we can get from the third normalization form. So we have class entity that has class group and lecturer name. And then we have a subject entity with a primary key as a subject code followed by subject name. And then because class has a relation with subject, we should put class group as the foreign key. Okay, so class group are the primary key for the entity class. So many one-to-many relationship. So the many part should have the foreign key. So foreign key we put here. And then subject has a relationship with invigilator, many-to-many. To stop the many-to-many relationship, we create a bridge entity and we name it as in examination. And then the invigilator number will be the primary key 1, FK1, and then subject code will be primary key 2, foreign key 2. And then the relationship with invigilator number will be the primary key, and then invigilator name is the attribute for the invigilator. So from here we solve the problem of many to many. So subject, one subject, many relationship with examination. So many relationship here with one invigilator. So this is the complete answer to answer the normalization question. Okay, so any questions up to now? Ada tak Pak yang you tak faham?
No, sir.
Semua okey boleh faham Okay, try to familiarize yourself with the question. Alright, so based from uh, based from this, okay, I already uploaded the exercise for you to do, normalization exercise in the Google Classroom. So I want you to do this exercise and then we will discuss it later, okay? Boleh semua? Cuba you check dalam Google Classroom, saya ada upload exercise. Okay, actually there are two things that I uploaded. So the first one is the normalization in a glance. So if you want to have a summary or brief overview about normalization, you can take a look at this link. Okay, try to open this link and then try to have an overview briefly from this website. Okay, and then followed by the normalization exercise. Okay, this is the exercise. There are two exercises. Question one, the form of table. And then if you look at the question, okay, this is table, okay. And then the question A, B, C, and D. What normal form is the table? Perceive your reason. And what will be the primary key of above table? And then identify and list the partial and transitive dependencies, followed by normalize the table into third normalization form. Show how you arrive to your answer. And finally, draw the ERD to show the relationships amongst all of the normalized tables. Okay, so that's why I asked you to draw the ERD even though the example didn't ask us. Okay, so that we know when you draw up, you click up to third normalization form, then you can draw the ERD. Okay, so this is in the form of the relational table. The second one is in the form of relational schema. Okay, same as in the example. Okay, if you look at the question, also same. Only the last part, it will ask you to draw the ERD. Okay, draw the ERD to show the relationship. So that's why train yourself to draw the ERD even though the question didn't ask. Okay. Okay, any question regarding normalization? Semua boleh faham?
Boleh.
Alright, so if semua boleh faham, now I want you to continue lah, do the exercise. Okay, we will discuss about it later. Okay. Okay, now you can proceed doing your exercise first. Alright, okay guys, thank you. We will discuss about it later.
Okay, sir.
Alright.